on Wednesday introduced legislation in the House and Senate that would, if enacted, massively expand the nation's affordable housing stock. Here are some details on the Homes Act. The Homes Act would establish a new federal housing development authority charged with building and rehabilitating more than 1 million permanently affordable homes. These homes, for both renters and buyers, would be managed by local entities, including public and tribal housing authorities, cooperatives, tenant unions, nonprofits, and the like. While 40% of these homes would be reserved for extremely low income residents and 30% for low income households, about 30% would be available to middle income households. This so called social housing is notably different from traditional public housing, which is entirely reserved for the poorest households. Rent for all tenants in social housing would be capped at 25% of their income. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Smith criticized the federal government's historical approach to ensuring lower-income Americans have access to affordable homes. They argued that federal funding in the form of subsidies for developers, homeowners, and public housing has too often propped up a for-profit market that doesn't serve the neediest members of our society. She said there is another way, social housing. That's from both Ocasio-Cortez and Smith, and they said that in their op-ed. Instead of treating real estate as a commodity, we can underwrite the construction of millions of homes and apartments that, by law, must remain affordable.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
The housing construction would be funded by a combination of congressional spending and Treasury-backed loans, making financing resilient to the volatility of our housing market and the political winds of the annual appropriations process, they wrote. Currently, rentals are hard to come by in this country, with national vacancy rates at 6.6% in the second quarter of 2024. And you can see it right here. That is, on the low side. Brett, a few things. I like how there is some focus on the middle class with this, because historically, the middle class does tend to get squeezed. There are plenty of people who live in that dead zone between not really being able to afford the things that they need, not want, but need, while also making just barely too much money to qualify for government assistance. Also, this is obviously going to be a very controversial debate going forward. And I know we as progressives tend to get a little impatient with how slowly things move in government, because usually by the time politicians start talking about plans like this, we've already been talking about similar solutions for years. So we're already a little tired of it. But I wonder who the biggest critics of something like this would be. Judging from what we usually see, the harshest criticisms tend to come from people who already have homes, first of all, and their arguments will be less about actually solving the homelessness crisis that they're also complaining about all the time, and more about, what something like this could potentially do to our economy. That's always what they want to talk about. So what do you think?
Right. So I would say that the opposite of this plan is in place, and it's making housing way more expensive. Yeah. So the alternative to a plan like this is which is social housing, which I'd be like, it's so socialist. It's like, all right, let's talk about capitalist housing. Right now, capitalist housing is when giant, mega corporations that used to be basically on the sides where they would just dabble in any industry where they can make a bunch of cash, the military industrial complex, anything, if it's making pen caps or whatever, they set their sight on your home. So these giant mega corporations are going in with the express purpose of making your house less affordable. When grandma dies, when the reverse mortgage goes in, they buy it off the bank, they get a bunch of money together and they buy up homes and privatize that market in a way that's wildly capitalist, more than and the normal person who wants to buy a house, that's not a thing anymore. They want to turn it into the subscription service that you hate about everything now. How you don't own anything, you want to rent it from them. That is their goal. So I'm in support of entertaining any idea that is the opposite of that crap, that is making housing explicitly more expensive, especially when those giant corporations that come in and they're from other countries. Other people now own American land en masse and charge us a crap ton of rent. Mm-hmm. I would be happy about anything that's the opposite of that. Other opponents of this, so I would try to paint opponents of this as people who are in favor of mega corporations buying up grandma's house and then charging her a schnack ton of rent for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%.
And they're not going to say that out loud, though. That's why I made the point earlier, like the people who are going to oppose this are the people who already have homes. Maybe they just want more homes and then they want to charge people rent on those homes, So things like this are really against their own personal financial goals. Overall, it's not good for the economy. It's not good for most American people. And they put forth these type of ideas and they perpetuate them and they say this is good for money and capitalism, but at the same time they're complaining because there's all these homeless people in their cities, on their streets, and there's nowhere to put them, nothing to do with them. They can try to criminalize homelessness, but like that only can get you so far. What are we going to do? Just put them in jails? At that point, just give them homes. It's basically what you're doing, right? If you put them
Right. At the end of the day, though, I like nobody gets the economics of this. No one gets the plan of this. And worse, like to make these things a reality will take 5 years to up to 10 years, 15 years to like actually get through all the red tape, much of which is just absolutely necessary to develop these locations and turn them into something else. So that this is one of those things where it's like, this seems more like hey, AOC over here is still trying to solve the problem. If you think I'm not, and I don't know, like California just put like billions of dollars into solving the homelessness crisis through housing, and it hasn't worked because, and like it's tough to decipher criticism of that, but a lot of the times, like the proposed solution by the people trying to score political points isn't like the actual solution that if you sat down with people who spend their lives trying to fix it, like what they'd say. For example, like a lot of criminal justice reform just results in gaming the statistics so your statistics feel better, or just like putting a Band-Aid on something rather than actually funding the rehabilitation apparatus necessary to get these people where they need to be in life to help out. While you face a headwind of Republicans being like, I genuinely don't care, but we should just like lock them up in prison because I just want them off my streets.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every sci-fi disaster film where they bring in the scientists to tell them what to do, and then the government people are like, we're not going to do that. Like that doesn't make any sense politically for me or whatever.
Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.